You know, the $500,000 college bribe. It cost them their freedom, obviously, their reputations completely shredded. And maybe worst of all, their kids' peace
Absolute devastating impacts all around.
at the final cost. The one that really puts a period on the whole saga, it looks like it's the collapse of their 28-year marriage.
Mm-hmm. And it wasn't sealed by some joint statement, was it? It was the sale. The sale of that $14.9 million Hidden Hills place.
That sanctuary, the very home they bought supposedly to recover in.
Yeah, the symbolism is pretty stark. The house is gone. And it feels like the relationship definitively is too.
Welcome to Starscope Report.
Join us as we break down Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and yeah, those influencer scandals too.
From surprises on the red carpet to controversies blowing up on TikTok, we really get into the stories behind those headlines.
And today, we're doing a deep dive just for you into all the reports, the sources, detailing this really painful end to the Loughlin Giannulli marriage.
We're going to unpack the timeline, specifically looking at the real estate moves, because they actually prove the separation was happening way before anyone knew publicly.
And we'll get into the why. What was the specific reason Lori Loughlin reportedly felt so betrayed? Hint. It's maybe not what you think. It wasn't the crime itself.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was apparently about his failure to change afterwards.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the money. That ticking time bomb prenup with potentially $80 million at stake.
Wow. Okay, let's start with the house itself. The monument to this failed second act, as you called it. The Hidden Hills mansion.
Right. If you haven't seen pictures, it's huge. Nearly 12,000 square feet. Modern farmhouse style, very minimalist chic, I suppose you'd say.
And that super exclusive, celeb-heavy enclave, meant to be their private fortress, right?
Exactly. And the timing of the purchase is key. They bought it for $9.5 million in August 2020.
August 2020. Wait, that's the same month they were sentenced for Varsity Blues.
Precisely. It wasn't exactly a celebration purchase. It felt strategic, like a retreat, a place to hide out and maybe, just maybe, piece things back together away from the cameras.
Almost like an admission of needing to disappear for a bit.
I think so. They needed somewhere that signaled seriousness, recovery, maybe even austerity compared to their old life.
Which makes sense when you remember what they just sold. Only weeks before buying Hidden Hills, they finally unloaded their massive Bel Air mansion.
That sprawling place, yeah. Sold for $18.75 million, which sounds like a lot, but remember, they originally asked for $35 million back in 2017?
A huge price cut. So the move to Hidden Hills was absolutely damage control, downsizing their image, their footprint.
And what's really telling, and this is where the sources get specific, is how the listing history of that Hidden Hills house mirrors the marital tension. It's like a timeline of the breakdown.
Okay, lay that out for us. Because the public only heard about the split much later.
Right. So first, they quietly tested the waters, apparently, in April 2024, asking $17.5 million.
Ambitious.
But it didn't sell then. No, they pulled it off the market. Then, the really crucial move. February 2025. It's relisted for $16.5 million.
February 2025. Okay, so that's a full 8 months before the official separation announcement in October 2025.
Exactly. That's the point. They were actively trying to sell their main shared asset long before telling the world they were splitting. The machinery of the breakup, the financial disentanglement, it was already running.
Wow. So the public face was one thing, but behind the scenes, they were already dividing things up.
It certainly looks that way, and the pressure must have been building because the house still wasn't selling. So in July 2025, another price cut, down to $14.95 million.
And then finally, after the news broke in October.
Yep. Later that same month, it went under contract. Selling the house was like the final nail, closing the door, literally, on that chapter.
It's such a tangible symbol, but the house is just bricks and mortar, right? The real story is the emotional core, the unraveling.
Absolutely. The house sale is the symptom, not the disease. And the emotionally part, well, it's complicated. Disappointment seems to be a key theme.
The official statement from Lori's rep was very careful, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, deliberately vague. Living apart, taking a break, no legal proceedings. It left the door open, or seemed to.
But the reality sounds much more final. Reports said Lori, who's 61 now, was mostly in L.A.
Right, staying connected there. While Mossimo, 62, was spending more and more time up in Sun Valley, Idaho, where they have another property.
That doesn't sound like a break. That sounds like separate lives already being lived.
It does. Sources painted it as a deep, established rift, not just a temporary cooling-off period.
So what was the actual tipping point? You mentioned this feeling of betrayal, but not about the original crime.
This is the crux of it, according to insiders. Lori felt devastated because, and this is the quote floating around, She thought Mossimo would make changes after they were released from prison, but he didn't.
Make changes? What kind of changes? Like fundamentally as a person?
That seems to be the implication. She saw the whole ordeal, the public humiliation, prison time, as this, I don't know, crucible, an opportunity for him to really reflect and emerge. Different. More humbled, maybe. More self-aware.
And he didn't, in her view.
Apparently not. From her perspective, the guy who came out of prison was essentially the same guy whose ego and bad judgment got them into that mess in the first place. The core lesson hadn't been learned.
That's heavy. If you believe your partner hasn't grown from such a massive trauma.
It makes moving forward together pretty difficult, doesn't it?
Yeah. And then there were those reports about the alleged trigger for the final split. Something about texts.
Right. Sources claim the absolute end came when she supposedly found incriminating texts and emails on his phone. We don't know what they were about specifically.
But for her, it was the final straw. Proof he hadn't changed his ways or his judgment.
That seems to be the narrative. It confirmed her fear that he hadn't evolved. The trust already damaged was just gone. Irretrievably broken.
Which inevitably brings us back to the original sin, doesn't it? Operation Varsity Blues. You can't understand the end without looking at that poisoned foundation.
Exactly. You have to revisit it. The $500,000 bribe to Rick Singer, the fake crew profiles for Olivia Jade and Isabella Rose, those staged photos on the rowing machines. It's still shocking.
And the legal system itself kind of baked in an imbalance from the start, didn't it, with the sentencing?
It really did.
Yeah.
Giannulli got the harsher deal.
Yeah.
5 months prison, $250,000 fine, 250 hours community service.
Whereas Loughlin got 2 months, $150,000 fine, 100 hours service, less severe.
And that difference, officially sanctioned by the court, it created this fault line. It fueled the public story. Think of John Stamos, Lori's friend.
Right, he was very vocal, called Giannulli a terrible narcissist.
And basically said Lori didn't have much to do with it, that she was led along. He really pushed that narrative.
But what about internally, between them? Surely they had to hash out the blame somehow.
Well, the reporting suggests it was toxic. Giannulli might have publicly said she took responsibility, for legal reasons.
Standard practice in a plea deal.
Right. But behind closed doors, sources allege the opposite. They blamed each other, but he blamed her more.
Wow. So that fundamental argument, whose fault was this really? It never got resolved.
It sounds like it just festered, corroded the relationship from the inside out for years. How do you rebuild when you can't even agree on who knocked the house down?
You probably can't. And once that emotional tie snaps, especially with the blame game unresolved, people's minds turn to, well, the practicalities. The money.
And there's a lot of it. We're talking a combined net worth estimated around $80 million. Some reports go even higher. That's a serious amount to divide.
Okay, but how is that wealth actually distributed? Is it split down the middle?
Not according to the reports. And this is where it gets really complex. The vast majority seems to be Giannulli's. His estimated net worth is $78 to $80 million.
Where did that come from mainly?
Mostly from selling his Mossimo clothing brand to Iconics way back in 2006. That was his big payday.
Okay, and Lori's net worth?
Estimated around $8 million, which is still substantial, obviously, but a huge difference. And her earning power took a massive hit with the scandal.
Right, she lost that big Hallmark Channel contract almost immediately. That was her main gig.
Exactly. So you have this massive financial imbalance heading into a separation.
Which leads us to the prenup, the ticking time bomb.
Yes. Apparently, they signed one back in 1997, reportedly at Giannulli's insistence. And the key detail, it supposedly stipulates that their assets are kept separate.
Hold on. They were married for 28 years, living in California, which is a community property state. How can a 1997 prenup still keep everything separate after all that time?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe the $80 million question. It implies they must have been incredibly careful legally to maintain the separate property status of his wealth, particularly the money from that 2006 company sale.
So even appreciation or income derived from his premarital or separately held assets might be protected.
Potentially, yes. A well-drafted, consistently respected prenup can override standard community property rules in California. If his fortune is legally classified as overwhelmingly separate,
then he could potentially keep almost all of it.
That's the stark possibility raised by some reports. One source flat out suggested Lori might walk away with almost nothing from his massive fortune.
That is terrifying. It puts incredible pressure on the whole situation, way beyond just splitting the proceeds from the Hidden Hills house sale.
Absolutely. It raises the stakes dramatically. It's not just an emotional split. It could be a financially devastating one for her.
So, as this all unfolds, legally and financially, what about the people around them? John Stamos is still firmly in her corner.
Oh, completely. He's been her staunchest public defender, still calling her an angel, saying she was busted up to the core by everything, including the marital problems. He's really shaping her public image as the victim in the relationship dynamic.
And the daughters, Olivia Jade and Isabella Rose, they've been through so much scrutiny already. How are they handling this?
Reports suggest they're trying to stay neutral, which must be incredibly difficult. They're 26 and 27 now.
Adults, yeah.
And the focus seems to be on just keeping things peaceful and maintaining family ties. Apparently, they're not taking sides.
Which sounds incredibly mature, honestly, given they were essentially collateral damage in the first place.
It really does. They went from being the reason for the crime, in a way, to now trying to manage the fallout of its final act, the destruction of their parents' marriage.
Yeah.
They've had to navigate a media storm for years.
So, looking ahead, the paths seem very different for Lori and Mossimo now.
Completely divergent. For Lori, it looks like an attempt at quiet reconstruction. She's slowly returning to acting, finding new network homes, leaning on that loyal support system. Image rehab is underway.
And Mossimo.
His future looks, well, more solitary. Increasingly based in Idaho, sources suggest. His reputation as the mastermind of the scheme seems pretty fixed.
The fashion mogul life is over, replaced by...
Possibly a kind of permanent, quiet exile. Managing his wealth, staying out of the spotlight. He seems tagged as the one who bears the most blame, publicly at least.
It's just incredible. When you think back, that $500,000 bribe, it bought them entry into USC for their daughters, temporarily.
A temporary, illicit advantage.
But look at the ultimate cost. Freedom lost. Reputations ruined. Their daughter's peace shattered for years. And now, the 28-year marriage, the shared home, all gone.
It's a staggering price to pay. A really stark cautionary tale played out so publicly about ambition, entitlement, and how secrets and lies can eventually unravel everything.
You've been listening to Starscope Report, where we uncover the stories shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.